If you're considering moving to BC, here are the 7 things that I wish I knew before moving here. I personally moved from Alberta, which is just right next door to British Columbia, but there are certainly a few things that were different about moving here that I wish I would have knew before. First off, let's start with the wages here in British Columbia. I figured with the high real estate prices that this mean you would actually get paid more to live in British Columbia, but I was certainly wrong. And I'm going to be covering the real estate prices here at the end of the video, so if you stick around till then, you'll see how BC actually shapes up compared to all the other provinces here in Canada. But let's take a look at what the average salary is in each and every one of the provinces so you can see if it actually financially makes sense for you to move to BC. So we got Alberta, which is number 1 at $59,000 is the average salary. Newfoundland comes in at $53,000. Saskatchewan's at $52,000. Ontario is also at $52,000. And British Columbia comes in at $49,000 as an average annual salary. Manitoba has an average salary of $47,000. Quebec also has an average salary of $47,000. New Brunswick has an average salary of $46,000 annually. Nova Scotia comes in at $45,000, and the worst on the list with the lowest salary is Prince Edward Island with $42,000. This puts British Columbia at number 5, which is middle pack on average wages here in Canada. The next thing that I wish I would have knew was the cost of living. You always hear people refer to British Columbia as bring cash, and it certainly does stand for that. Your cost of living is definitely higher here than where I was in Alberta. But let's break it down province by province so you can see which one might be the best to live in. So we got average cost of living. The highest province to live in here in Canada is Ontario. For a single person, which includes rent, is $3,900 a month to live in Ontario. You have British Columbia, which is the second highest. It comes in at $3,800 a month for cost of living. Next, we have Alberta, which is $2,900. You have Nova Scotia, which is also $2,900. You have Quebec at $2,600. You have PEI, which had the lowest wages. It comes in at $2,500 for an average monthly cost of living. You got Saskatchewan, that's also at $2,500. You have New Brunswick, that also comes in at $2,500. Manitoba has an average cost of living of $2,300. And Newfoundland and Labrador comes in with an average cost of $2,200, which brings us in a grand total for an average cost of living, including rent for a 1-bedroom in all the provinces, at $2,859 a month. And let's break this down for people who are in families. So an average cost of living for a family in Canada is at $6,700 a month. British Columbia is currently at a cost of living for a family of 4 at $7,800. So you're looking at, like, for a single person, you're gonna be spending on average over $1,000 more a month just to live in British Columbia compared to the Canadian average of all the other provinces. And if you're someone who's considering making the move to British Columbia and you're watching this video, my Calendly link is in the description below. I can go over everything, what it's like to relocate here, so you have firsthand information on what it's like to actually move to a different province. Now let's transition into what it's like to purchase real estate here in British Columbia. Here's a couple of things that I didn't know before moving here that I wish I did. I purchased quite a bit of real estate back in Alberta, but now being here at BC, things were completely different in a few different sectors. Number 1 being the deposit price. So in Alberta, you have low deposits, and it's almost in good faith that you put up right up front when you do get an accepted offer. Here in BC, it is 3% of the total purchase price, and it's due after subject removal. So this is definitely a lot larger than what you see in other provinces. The next, and probably the biggest thing, was property transfer tax. So coming from Alberta, we didn't have property transfer tax, so I thought this thing was absolutely crazy when I heard the actual numbers and calculated it. But here's how property transfer tax works in British Columbia. It is the first 1% of $200,000 of fair market value, and then it's 2% on the remaining amount from $200,000 all the way up to $2 million. And then 3% on the amount between $2 million to $3 million. Then anything above $3 million, it's 5% of the total market value of the property that you have to pay on closing. So for a $500,000 property here in British Columbia, you're going to be paying on average around $8,000 in property transfer tax. And with the average single family home price here in Kelowna being just under $1 million, you will pay around $18,000 in property transfer tax on closing when you purchase this property. So coming from Alberta, this was a huge kicker for me to hear, and that's exactly how it goes here in British Columbia, and it's applicable in almost every other province in Canada that you do have to pay some sort of land transfer tax when you purchase a property. Point number 5, and this primarily only affects certain areas here in British Columbia, like in Kelowna, Vancouver, and certain sectors, and that is speculation tax. So this speculation tax, or vacancy tax like it's referred to, is to turn empty homes into housing and to also ensure that any foreign ownership does contribute to the BC provincial tax. So this does change, and there is some stipulations on if you have to pay speculation tax. 99% of people in British Columbia, this will not affect, but this is for people who are buying vacation homes or just homes that they're seldomly going to use in certain areas of British Columbia that this is affected. And how you calculate this tax, and it is up for change each and every year, but in 2019, for foreign home buyers, this was 2% of the assessed value of your property. And then for Canadian citizens, it is less than 1%. It comes in at 0.5% of the assessed value that you have to pay. And for the people that are wanting to purchase these vacation homes and want them to sit empty throughout the year, you're going to have to refer to your accountant to give you some tax advice on how you can potentially avoid this. But the standard rule of thumb of how it works is you do have to declare your use of the property. And if it is rented for more than 6 months a year, it does not apply. So for the people that only maybe use their properties every couple weeks or just come in the summertime and you don't have someone living in there or it's rented out, you will have to pay speculation tax. And number 6, just when you thought that there was not enough taxes that you had to pay in British Columbia, Vancouver decided to make their own, and it's called the empty home tax. That's only applicable in the city of Vancouver area. So this is for homes that were declared to be empty in 2023, will be subject to a 3% tax on the assessed value for the property sitting vacant. And they're estimating that in 2023 that this will change to a 5% for these empty home taxes. And primarily what this is for is that there used to be, see a lot of developers or people just hold on to these family homes or homes that were in great locations for years on years, and they just sit vacant and they're boarded up and they're getting no use of that. This was happening so much in Vancouver that they implemented this tax to prevent people from just holding these properties and doing nothing with them for years and years to come. And yes, a lot of these taxes that are extra here in BC, I totally don't agree with, and it can add a lot of extra expenses if you're someone who's just looking for a vacation home, or you're someone from Alberta purchasing here and you've never had to pay land transfer tax before. But it is what it is. Everyone has to abide by the rules, and it's applicable for anyone who wants to live in BC or purchase property. Now let's touch on the biggest factor to moving to BC, and this would be the real estate prices. So if you're someone that's wanting more information on what it's like to purchase property here in British Columbia, or just what the current real estate prices are, my Calendly link is in the description below. Book a call with me. I'll be able to go over all the details so you know exactly what's going to be the best market for you to potentially invest in, or if you're looking to buy that vacation home, where the speculation tax and all these other areas that it won't apply to, so you're set up for success when you're going to make this move. So we went over the cost of living, we went over how much the average wages are going to be, and the biggest kicker for BC is where does its real estate prices end up? So let's start with Alberta, who had the highest wages and is in one of the most affordable markets for purchasing a home. In Alberta, it comes in around $430,000 on average to purchase a single family home in that province right now currently. You got Saskatchewan, that's going to be $316,000, and then we move to Manitoba with an average price of $336,000. Then we get to some cities like Newfoundland, where the average purchase price is $251,000 for a single family home. And you continue on and you get to New Brunswick, which is $265,000. You end up at PEI that had the lowest annual wages in all the provinces in Canada. You have an average home price of $352,000. Nova Scotia, you see $369,000. Now is where we start getting up in prices, where you go to Quebec and it has an average single family home price of $458,000. And then we see Ontario with an average price of $812,000. And last but not least, and the most expensive, you have British Columbia, where you see an average single family home price of $907,000. So this is where it is a little bit tricky to move to BC. You do have a higher cost of living. You are sitting about middle of the pack in terms of your annual salary. It can make real estate affordability very difficult. But that being said, like especially living here in Kelowna, you're just exposed to all the beauty that BC has to offer, and there's so many reasons why you're going to want to move to British Columbia, even with the real estate prices being so high. If you're someone that's seriously considering making the move, you're going to want to watch this video next, where I go over the top 7 reasons why to move to Kelowna, British Columbia.